my humble abode. It is time to talk about art. Today we're talking about anxiety and overwhelm that comes when you are trying to do something new, something as big and new as creating an art business for yourself. Because when you create your own art business, it is kind of like starting a new life, because so much of your life often revolves around your job, right? You're always showing up 9 o'clock a.m. every single day, every weekday for most of your time. And even if you're not physically at your job, a lot of times you're thinking about it. When you decide to take that step to start this journey of entrepreneurship, it can feel a lot like uprooting your life entirely and like starting something so completely new that requires you to show up as a different person, a different version of yourself that does exist inside you. I know that for certain, that if you're watching this video and you feel in your heart that you really do want a creative career, there is that creative entrepreneur inside of you that you sort of have to wake up, that you have to nurture and cultivate and cheer her on, or him or them on. Sometimes we just have so much safety that is found in knowing exactly what our life is, knowing what our day-to-day looks like, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is the most fulfilling for us. On one of my last videos, I got this comment, and when I read it, I just felt really seen. And I kind of wanted to read it out and talk about it today. As an artist building my own brand, I often feel a great deal of pressure and anxiety. There are so many aspects of this journey, especially the difficult ones, that I've noticed are not openly discussed by successful artists. Lately, I've seen a growing trend of creators saying things like, I left my stable 9-to-5 job to pursue my small business full-time. And while that is inspiring for some, it can feel a bit overwhelming and confusing, especially in the art world. In my experience, I'm still in search of a stable design job that can support me financially while I continue to grow and nurture my art brand on the side. What I often feel is missing from these narratives is an honest discussion about the struggles, the sacrifices, and realities that come with this path. At times, it seems like going full-time has become more of a trend than a transparent conversation about what it truly takes behind the scenes. So that was the comment, and bruh, when I read that, I was like, I started typing a response, and then I was like, I don't know if I can put this correctly in words, so I wanted to make a video about it. Because I also highly relate to feeling so much pressure and anxiety at the beginning of my journey, even now, even today, like a year and a half later, where my art business is steadily growing and growing. It's almost like the more that it grows, the more anxiety that comes with it, because what happens is, for me, it feels like there are two selves, right? There's my old self and there's my new self. Your new self is ready for new experiences. They are ready for this chapter to end and for a new one to begin. Your old self wants to stay the same. You can imagine this like getting into a pool. Whenever you put your feet in the water, you're like, ooh, that's cold, but you know you want to swim. So it's kind of like wanting to get into the water, but also feeling like it's too cold and you're like, oh, I don't know about it. And it's this teetering back and forth between wanting to expand and wanting to stay the same where it is comfortable that creates this anxiety around your day-to-day life. And some amount of anxiety and doubt is going to be very normal. I used to think very early on in my career that the doubt that I felt was somehow an indicator that I was doing something wrong, but it was an indicator I was doing something right. It was an indicator that I am exploring, and your nervous system is aware that you're in the unfamiliar right now. So it's very normal, and it's just expected that you're going to have some anxiety and doubt when you're exploring new terrain. So first I want to answer the question of quitting your 9-to-5. Is that necessary in order to pursue your art career? I am going to say it depends. Right before I hop into the video though, I wanted to share with you something super fun and exciting. My new collection Storybook is out now. We love it. Yay! Storybook! Storybook is a collection of watercolor paintings, art prints, and greeting cards that celebrate the stories that we tell ourselves in life. So for the first time, I'm offering variety set greeting cards. Usually they are all the same card inside, but I have these really cute kitty prints and I'm gonna open them for you. You can probably open them from the bottom. Sometimes I tape the bottom too though, it depends. Inside you have 8 cards. So every card is a different design. It comes with cream colored envelopes that self-seal, so it's very easy to send, and they are all blank inside. Ta-da! And so you can write little notes to your friends or, you know, send off cute little messages. I am personally just so in love with these cards. They're so much fun to make and I really hope that you guys love them too. Depending on the kind of job you have, it could be necessary and it could be unnecessary. For me, in my 9-to-5, I did need to quit, and prior to making that decision, I had many conversations with friends and family in which they said, why don't you just try to build it on the side instead of quitting? But the problem with my 9-to-5 is it was so utterly demanding. And I'm not just saying draining, because any job will be draining or tiring or boring, things like that. But this job was specifically very demanding. I worked in property management, where I was the property manager who managed a team of 5 people and worked in between my on-site team and corporate management. So I was making so many decisions for my on-site team while also like being required to report to the corporate people who honestly, the way that they managed things was very high stress and high pressure. I'm sure that they would say that's just the requirements and demands of the job. And I know that there are a lot of jobs out there where that is what they will say. This is just the job. You need to get used to this kind of stress and pressure. So if you have a job where there is just this unrelenting pressure and there's no relief, especially at any point of the year, then it's just not feasible to do something like build your art business on the side if you have none of you left in order to build it. That said, if you have a 9-to-5 where you are able to kind of have that separation, where you can show up to your job, leave, and turn off your work brain, then it is possible to build your 9-to-5 or build your art career on the side, but it will be very, very difficult. After I quit my 9-to-5 in property management, I actually got another, I worked several different jobs over the period of 6 months. I worked at a hotel very, very briefly, like at front desk. I worked another property management job, and I worked a couple different jobs while I was trying to find out what will be my supplemental income so that I'm not so stressed out about where my next sale is coming from and can I pay my bills now. I did get another 9-to-5. That second 9-to-5 that I got, I actually, now that I think about it, I worked longer hours, but the way that the team was structured and set up made it so that I was not the #1 and only decision maker, and that relieved a lot of pressure off of me so that I could build my art business on the side. What I did while working that 9-to-5, I think I was mostly like a 10 to 6 there, but I woke up at like 6:45 a.m. every day. I worked in my art studio from 7 a.m. to 8:45. Or I remember I was always in my studio at 7 a.m. to kind of work on my art business there while I was trying to work this 9-to-5 at the same time. And I specifically remember one day, like, I started crying when it was time to leave my art studio to go to my 9-to-5, because I was just like, I did not want to leave my art studio. I wanted to keep painting. But I had to go. I had to, you know, creating your financial stability is always going to be your #1. You should never like jump off the cliff into the unknown of creating all of this instability for yourself just because you see other people doing it on social media and it's trendy. Don't do that to yourself. And there were other times when I would be after work and I would just be very, very tired, and my partner would comment on this. He'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you look very tired." And for me, it was trading my physical tiredness for my spiritual tiredness. I was willing to compromise my physical tiredness if it meant that I was not feeling spiritually unfulfilled. And that is how I felt when I did not let myself work on my art business. When I worked a 9-to-5 and listened to my physical tiredness saying, "Oh, I'm too tired to do anything else," I would just not do anything else, and I would feel so empty. Like I would just feel like I wasn't myself. I felt like I was just like living on autopilot, living a life for other people. And back before I started my art business seriously, I remember when I talked about my life to other people, I felt like I was describing someone else's life. Like I did not feel like I was talking about myself. So when someone was like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" and I would be like, "Oh, I'm a property manager," it just felt like I was saying a script that was me describing a character's life to somebody. It did not feel like talking about me. Now that I work on my art business and I say that I'm a working artist and illustrator, that is me. Like, and that just makes it so much easier for me to walk in this world knowing who I am, because I've started to take action in alignment with what I know is mine at the end of the day. I don't care when it gets here. I don't care how hard I have to work at it. I don't care the timeline. All I care about is that the life I'm living today is at least half a step forward towards what I want to be in 10 years. Because if I had continued working at a job that did not allow me the creative space to be myself or work on what's important to me on the side, I would just sit there knowing I was never myself, and that's not fair to me, and it's not fair to you either if that's you in your life. That's why I am of the belief that if you want a creative career, your first step is organizing your environment that allows you more space to be creative. For me, that was leaving my 9-to-5 for a different 9-to-5, and then leaving that 9-to-5 for a part-time job. So when I left my 9-to-5 to my part-time job, I did not yet have the income to supplement enough to cover baseline bills. Like, I'm living in an apartment with my partner, and there was a time whenever he was carrying more of the bills than I was. Like, I do recognize that as a certain privilege of mine as well. Like, not everyone is in the same position, but I don't know, call me crazy delusional, but I think that there's got to be a way. If this is something you want, where there is a will, there is a way. And you just got to work it out. I also know that there were times when I was taking some risk. A couple months ago, I decreased my hours at my part-time job because I was starting to get more and more demand for my art. And I didn't necessarily have the revenue yet, but I had the vision for what I wanted to do more of, and I needed more time for that. I knew that I wanted to show up more frequently at art markets. I knew I wanted to do more at those art markets, but I only had limited time and energy. And so I took the risk to decrease my working hours at my part-time job from Monday through Friday into Monday through Thursday, and they were very supportive, very nice. I love that. But that was a risk for me to take, and it did pay off. There are going to be times when pursuing your art business that you do leap into the unknown, but more than anything, I just trusted myself that if I got myself into a sticky situation, I would be able to handle it, because I have gotten myself through every single bad day of my life, and I'll get myself through the next one too. You have to allow your trust in yourself to be greater than your fear of loss or fear of failure. And this is just what worked for me in my life. So I mean, I don't know your specific circumstances, what you've got going on there, but I would definitely take a second look at your environment and ask yourself, does this leave me enough room to be creative? Sometimes creating room for you to be creative also looks like just decreasing how much energy you're willing to put towards something. So for instance, at that 9-to-5 job, it was true that my higher ups required so much of me, but it was also true that I have an instinct to always give 110% of myself. So at my part-time job, for instance, I will have the instinct to take on more than I should, because I do work on their email marketing sometimes, and I'll be like, oh, can I rewrite this email so it's a little bit better? Can this be more perfect? Can this be, sometimes I'm just like trying to create like this amazing, beautiful, perfect thing, when in reality it just needs to be good enough. And if you allow yourself to withhold your energy for what matters to you, which is your art business, and you allow yourself to give good enough to other people, that is another thing that will really help you in the long run when pursuing your art career. Now let's talk a little bit about this feeling of overwhelm. In my experience, so I'm gonna be so real with you right now. Oh my gosh, I'm just remembering when I first quit my job, and I would literally, there were days where I like laid on the floor of my partner's office and I was just like in despair. I was just like sitting there with a bag of Lay's potato chips being like, I don't know if I can do this. Can I do that? Like I was just like so anxious and overwhelmed by everything that I had to do. And I would often say that. I would say there are so many things for me to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know what I should do, because when you think about the future, you're like, oh my gosh, there are so many options. There are so many things that I could do. Should I do pattern design? Should I do graphic design? Should I do licensing? Should I sell my original paintings? Should I sell prints? Where should I make all of these sales? Should I go to art markets? Should I do online? What platform should I do online? Should I do Instagram, TikTok, YouTube? There are so many options that it's easy to feel so overwhelmed, and for you to be like, oh well, maybe I should just not do anything. Like it will be so paralyzing for you to look at all these options and not know what to do. And for me, the solution to all of that is just to pick one and get started. I know that I've heard that before, and you might be like, I don't want to hear that again. But here is the trick: to pay very close attention to your instincts. What do you naturally want to try? What are you already trying? And how does it feel in the process of you doing it? And once you try it, be very quick to just knock it right out of your have-to-do list if you don't like it. So for instance, I remember I had so many ideas about things I wanted to do. At one point, I even wanted to do like a podcast or something. I think it's just because I heard other people do that, and I'm like, ooh, I'll try to do a podcast. And I filmed one episode. It was with my sister, and I hated editing it. It was not fun. And so I was just like, well, that's not it. So like everyone says like you have to be consistent, you have to stick at it, you have to not quit. But in reality, you have to get good at quitting. You have to know when it's a good time to leave it behind and just say, this is not for me. And you need a good amount of self-trust and a good ear for listening to your instincts to know when to drop something. Another thing to do if you are feeling kind of lost and directionless is to find an inspirational person online who does what you want to do. And I'm telling you, it will be a weight off your shoulders if you find one single person who you kind of allow to be your anchor in a way, and that way, whenever you feel discombobulated or like off center, you can go to that one spot that usually helps you feel aligned again, and then you listen to only their voice. And the reason why you listen to only their voice is because everyone will tell you to do something different until you know what is your path, because you will develop your path. You will one day know what your path is, what your strategy is, what works for you. It will take time to discover that. And until you know what feels right and good to you to use, borrow one person's method. Because if you're borrowing pieces from 10 different people's paths and journeys and strategies, you're going to feel very confused. That's just my personal opinion. And sometimes this creator doesn't even have to be an artist. I know for me, some of my favorite channels to listen to when it came to looking at my own art career were channels about like manifestation and the law of assumption and things that were just motivating to hear. I would listen to audiobooks like Soundtracks by John Acuff or Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I would find creators who felt like they were walking down a path that felt right and good to me. So I wasn't necessarily trying to say who has the physical thing that I want. I was trying to say who is living a life that feels like it could be fulfilling for me too. Even if they're an author instead of a painter, even if they're physically doing different stuff, if the way that they are conducting themselves in the world feels like it's aligning for me too, that's what I would allow to be my anchor. It's important to, instead of putting on the pedestal your full-time artist status, instead take that off and remember your worthiness and remember who you want to be at the end of the day. Because the person you're becoming, that is the real goal. It's not all of this money you're gonna make, and you're gonna make it. Queen's gonna get her bag, I just know it. But you really want to be happy with yourself at the end of the day. It's really all this mindset work that will get you there. Another perspective when it comes to thinking about there are limitless options, let me offer you another perspective. And isn't that a wonderful thing? Isn't it so wonderful that there are so many options out there? It means that there's no way that you can fail at this, right? Like if there are so many ways to get to the finish line, you do not have to worry about your strategy to get there. You just have to choose what you want in the world. If you imagine your life as a library with all of the books in the world that you could ever want to read, all you have to do is walk into that library, choose the book that you want off the shelf. You don't have to get worried about, oh my gosh, there's so many. What do you want? What do you want in your life? And that is what you choose, and you let the universe do the rest. Like, I know that will sound kind of woo-woo or whatever, but there are so many steps in this creative journey of yours that no one can predict, that you can never foresee, that you cannot see coming. And a lot of it's going to be aided by things in the world that you can't really control or foresee. Most of the moments in my life where I saw a huge spike in momentum or a huge opportunity present itself happened to just being at the right place at the right time and being open to that opportunity. Whenever I would hear this advice in the past, like, oh, you just had walked into some opportunity, you just got lucky, right? That could never happen to me because I'm not lucky. That's not true. The only reason why you can see and gain that opportunity is because you are open to the possibility of it happening in the first place. Sometimes we get such tunnel vision about life that if we think nothing is ever going to work out for us, we miss what is right there in front of us. So let me tell you a story right now. I was dropping off a package at UPS one day, and because I sort of had this like intuitive feeling in the parking lot. I'm sitting there in the parking space, UPS is to my right, and right in front of me is a gift shop boutique. And I just have this like intuitive feeling, I should go in there. And I'm not sure why I had that feeling, but I was just like, I should just go in there. So I drop my package off at UPS and I walk into the boutique. I chat a little bit with the boutique owner. It's clearly a small shop, like a small locally owned shop. As I'm walking around, I end up picking something out to, check out, take home. And as I am checking this item out, I have this little like voice in my head saying, you should ask how they source their products. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. I don't know if I want to do that. Like, that's kind of putting myself out there. I don't know if I want to do that. And before I could even like realize I was saying it, I was like, so where do you guys source your products from? And I was just like, oh, I guess I'm having this conversation. And she says she sources them from the Atlanta trade show. And we start talking for a little bit. And then I was like, I should mention I'm an artist. And then I was like, no, I can't do that. That's stressful. And I just ended up saying it. I was just like, I'm an artist too. I actually offer art prints and watercolor paintings. And she's like, oh my gosh, we have been looking for another artist. We used to have an artist here, but we haven't had one in a while. We would love to have another artist here. And I was just like, what? And so I gave her my business card, and that was just kind of it. I was like, oh, reach out to me, we'll set something up. Like, I had walked past that shop so many times in my life, never really thinking twice because it was so small, like it wasn't like a huge corporate shop. The exterior was kind of like hidden. Like, it was easy to miss if you didn't look at it. And that's why whenever you quiet your mind and don't let yourself fixate on the little details about what you need to force, what you need to do, it's kind of like the universe will open itself up to you, and it'll show you the way, it'll show you where you should walk. There's a quote by Rupi Kaur that says, walk and the way will appear. And so sometimes whenever you get so in your head overthinking about what you need to do to force the path to appear, that can actually kind of close doors, because you have to let go and you have to say, I just don't know all the answers, and I just need to put myself out there and say, hello, I'm an artist, and allow opportunities to just kind of open up. There have been so many times where I have met someone who, like, literally they just see artists and they want to help, because to be in the company of an artist is a truly amazing, beautiful thing. You don't realize the power that you have as an artist because you're living with your creativity every day of your life. But there are people out there who are not creative, or they don't consider themselves creative, they don't consider themselves artists. And so whenever they are in the company of an artist, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so special. And you really need to allow the world to see your special light. I ended up at bringing that boutique I believe 3 8x10 prints. Like, it was just like an instinct that I had. I was just like, what if I just bring them some art prints? And so I brought them these 3 prints, and I brought them an acrylic stand, and I said, here, I'm gonna give these to you for free. I sell these for $25 each. They are limited edition, and they're hand numbered in the lower right hand corner. You can test out how it is to sell them. If they sell, you know, you can come back and you can buy some from me wholesale. And she ended up spending about $75 on some more prints after those 3 had sold. If I had gone in there and like offered whatever and it didn't work out, that's still okay. You know, like, you can't allow yourself to kind of cling on to the ideas that things are not working out, because then that's all you will ever see. There is great vulnerability and sacrifice that comes with just walking into the unknown, just saying, hey, I'm an artist. I don't know how I'm gonna get there yet, but I've just chosen this life for myself. That's all I can say, is that I'm here. And you would be surprised at the different kinds of people that will show up for you and show you your next possible step. You do not have to think 10 years in the future. You have to think 1 step in the future. You cannot let yourself get fixated on, how do I make $1,000 in a month? You have to say, how do I make $1 tomorrow? And you really, like, the second that you get out there and you start trying to put your artwork out there, making offers to people, sending DMs, cold emails, all these different kinds of things. You just need to get your artwork in front of eyeballs and ask for the sale as often as you can, so that you can kind of test out, see what works for you, and also see what feels good for you, because showing up for your artwork should feel so good. For me, it feels amazing to be able to show up for my artwork. But that said, like, there are ways that you can show up that feel sticky. Like, whenever things feel sticky, that's where I'm like, this is not working, right? There's actually a concept in the book called The 5 Types of Wealth by Sahil Bloom, and it talks about anti-goals. It says, essentially, the concept of anti-goals means, what are you not willing to lose in order to get to your goal? For example, if you're climbing a mountain and you want to get to the top of the mountain and look at the beautiful view from the top, what would happen on that journey to make getting to the top of the mountain no longer worth it? Things like losing a limb. That would make it not worth it, huh? If you get to the top of the mountain, like, I want my hands, please. Or like getting frostbite, or like getting incredibly sick. Like, obviously you want to be healthy enough to view the top of the mountain, come on. And so it might be worth it to really feel how, like be very in touch with yourself as you're walking this journey of building your art business. For instance, like, when I'm posting videos on YouTube, it's really important to me that I don't want to be clickbaity. I don't want to, there's essentially pain point marketing and desire-based marketing. I do not want any part of pain point marketing. I cannot stand it. It makes me feel icky to see, and it might get clicks and views, but I'm not willing to get more views by poking at people's pain than the smaller amount of views I might get by empowering you with the title that you read or with the thumbnail that you see. I do not want to create that shock, fear, or surprise in someone. I want them to feel happy and fulfilled when they see my videos and my content, and I'm not willing to sacrifice that. That is my anti-goal. And so it's really, I find that what pushes you so much farther into success is deciding what you do not want, deciding what to quit, deciding what is not for you, because it's easy to say yes to everything, but we cannot do everything. Bestie, we cannot do it all. And so when you are feeling overwhelmed, decide what you will take off your plate. Even if it's just for today, even if it's just for a week. Businesses have seasons, right? Like, people spend more at Christmas, they spend less in January, all that kinds of stuff. So for me, even if I want to do something, I'm going to decide for myself that's for later. So like, I might want to get into art licensing at some point, but that is going to require so much learning. Like, it's a whole other thing to learn. So right now I'm focusing on my art prints and my originals, and that's it. And maybe in January, when things are slower, I might focus on licensing, or maybe I'll find something else that makes more sense for my business to work on at that point. But it's okay to say no to things. Sometimes we feel like we have nothing. oh my gosh, sometimes we feel like we have nothing. And so because we feel like we are lacking so much, we feel like we need to just take anything that comes our way. But there's another way to think about the world. You are not lacking. You have so much abundance in front of you, so many options to choose from, that you do not have to say yes to everything. You can say yes to one thing. Say yes to one thing that you know that you love. Say yes to one thing that you want to see if you love. And just allow yourself to pace yourself, because you have your whole lifetime to build this art career for yourself. It does not have to happen today. It does not have to happen this year. And I know that can feel scary. You're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna take more than a year. Help. But just try to think about ways that we can make this journey a little bit more comfortable, fun, free, playful. Think about what friends we can make along the way, because I promise you, 10 years from now, you, the person who has everything that you've ever wanted right now, she's gonna wish that she spent more time enjoying where she is today. And that's what you gotta focus on. That's what you have to hold on to. There's no version of yourself that has everything that you want that also doesn't love who you are now. You have to love and accept everything about your current circumstances in order to really start enjoying this journey. And when you enjoy the journey, that is where the overwhelm will decrease. And that's what we're looking for, right? Just like a more easy, fun, playful way to enjoy our lives, because life isn't about arriving at the finish line. It's about having a community that you love and care about. It's about doing work that you enjoy. So when you find yourself like chasing, getting that thing won't make you happy. Enjoying where you are will make you happy. I actually heard this quote the other day. What was it? I was actually watching this YouTuber, I think it's called Stop the Starving Artist, and for a long time I had avoided channels, because like I just said, I don't like videos of people who just tell you what you're doing wrong with your life. And I was worried that this channel would be one of them, but they're not. They're actually really cool. If you haven't checked them out, I'll link them below. They're awesome. They said something like, when you are overthinking, you're not being yourself. And you need to be able to be yourself in order to really truly connect with other people, in order for other people to find real value and interest in you, because otherwise you're just playing a character. And when you're playing a character, you're not being authentic. And we are here in this world to be authentic, to find other people who are authentic too. See, listen, this is what you gotta pay attention to. You just gotta be friends, be chill, be cool, all right. So that's just the video for today. I'm really curious to hear your experience too, if any of this resonated, or if you're sitting there like, what are you talking about? If you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a like, a little thumbs up, you know, thumbs it all up in the ways. I don't know why I said it that way, but I did. And also hit the subscribe button, because we must feed the algorithm. I hope to see you there at my collection Storybook, which is out now. Follow the link in the description and take home an art print or some greeting cards, because honestly, my greeting cards are some of my favorite things. Let me show you. I really hope that you guys love them too. Take a little sip of water. Does anyone else say water like that? I say water like in a sentence, but if I'm gonna say water like on its own or in a short phrase, I say water. I don't know why.
But have you? I'm probably gonna grab some fries from McDonald's. Do you want anything? Want any McChickens or something?
Yeah. Plain, please.
Extra mayo, got it.
No, my love, plain. Don't joke with me. I don't want the mayo.
I'm joking. You won't get anything.
Woohoo!
I have a fiance now. Finally did it.